Now, the US looks set for months of divisive political debate following a decision to begin an investigation into whether President Biden should be impeached. US House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy claims evidence has emerged showing what he called a culture of corruption in the Biden family. The allegations centre around the accusation that the president personally profited from his son Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. The allegations are not new and were first made during the Trump administration. Catherine Ross is a professor of law at George Washington University Law School in Washington. Welcome to DW, Professor. To be clear, Republicans at the moment are talking about an inquiry into whether to start an impeachment process rather than starting an impeachment process itself.
Well, it's a little unclear. The leader of the House of Representatives Republican group, Speaker McCarthy, announced that he was asking the committees to begin an inquiry. And he also said that he was going to skip the usual and apparently required step of asking the full House of Representatives to vote on beginning a formal inquiry, because it seems he would not have enough votes on the Republican side.
That seems an odd way to proceed. If it doesn't look like you'll get the votes, we'll just skip through that. Do you see there being enough evidence to justify this inquiry?
There is no evidence at all. And in fact, many senior-level Republicans have admitted in interviews that they have no evidence. And Senator Grassley, a while back, not with respect to this impeachment proceeding, but he actually said, we have no interest in finding out what the truth is. So they have already called many witnesses. They have reviewed more than 12,000 pages of documents, including financial records that the Bidens voluntarily turned over, that they didn't have to. And they have not come up with a single thing they can point to.
Right. So if they're not interested in finding out what the truth is, what do you think they really want to do?
This is political grandstanding. It is a power play. It is another example of the way in which, very tragically, the Republican Party has moved away from being a responsible party participating in governance to a party that is interested in retaining power at all costs and promoting an authoritarian leader in the form of the former president. It is also, I think, intended to distract the American people from some very important news, both about the legal troubles of the former president and his indicted co-conspirators, now that the decisions are coming almost daily from the courts ruling against the president and his allies, and the trials are about to start, and they don't want news coverage focused on that. But it is also about intra-family warfare among the Republicans in the House, because Speaker McCarthy had a very hard time being elected to that position. And as part of the deal that he ultimately cobbled together after more than a dozen failed votes, he gave the far-right Republicans, essentially everybody in the party, the option of calling for him to step down in the middle of his term. And he was being pressed very hard from the right, including by people who had recently met with the former president at Mar-a-Lago. They were saying, we're going to force you to give up your office if you don't begin the impeachment proceedings. And he came to that.
So an inquiry with no evidence of wrongdoing and apparently no interest in finding out the truth. Where does this go to, and how does it end?
Where does it go to? It's a wonderful question. In normal times, it would just sputter out. It would come to a grinding halt because presumably they will still not find anything. Unfortunately, they are probably going to issue subpoenas, which will not be enforceable because the full House never voted to begin the inquiry. So will there be court battles over that, or will President Biden say, I'm not going to be like Trump was. I'm not going to be like the Republicans who refused to testify before committees. I'll keep turning it over. Maybe he will. And presuming they find nothing, it should end there. But I don't think it will, because they've made it so clear this is not a serious proceeding. It's not about governing. It's not about legitimate oversight or separation of powers. So it is quite plausible that they will bring this to a vote on the full floor of the House on whether to impeach. They may well not have the votes because there are still a handful, I think, of Republicans who won't go along, especially with an election looming.
Right.
But in this time of crisis here and such weaponization and politicization of everything, I wouldn't feel comfortable placing a bet on where it ends.
And I did want to come to that point, that impeachment proceedings were once rare. Now they seem to have become commonplace. Has the bar for impeachment got lower, or are people just more and more inclined to reach for it?
It's hard to see that there's a bar at all right now. And I would hope that this proceeding ends as such a calamity that Republicans will be embarrassed and that both sides will learn a lesson on how and when impeachments should be properly invoked.
Good talking to you. Thank you for joining us, Professor. Professor Catherine Ross from George Washington University Law School. Thank you.
Thank you.